Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarre YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, 1965's Diabolical Dr. Z by Jess Franco. This was put out by Mondo Macabro some years back, 2003 actually, and I believe there's rumor that this is coming out on Blu-ray by another company, maybe, I'm not sure. This is the back of the DVD that I believe you can still get, still in print, but check online for that. This is 1965 black and white Jess Franco. And we're going to get into this film right here. Beautiful artwork on the front, and it says right there, Diabolical Dr. Z and his fiendish creation, Miss Death. And it says in the back, heavy, heavy weirdness from the Sultan of strange cinema, Jess Franco. Amen. All right, folks, let's get into Diabolical Dr. Z, 1965, Jess Franco. Now, you might see my eyes divert around because I have some notes here because I did not want to forget anything. So let's get into this unbelievable Z film right here. Diabolical Dr. Z. We have human experiments, robotic acupuncture, mind control, torture, serial killing, and revenge, and viciousness, and hatred, and anger. An unbelievable atmosphere. Let's get into this Jess Franco's penultimate, unbelievable black and white horror film that goes beyond the boundaries of horror, for it is Jess Franco, and he will do what he wants. Let's go. When we look at the music for this film, we have jazz, and we, much like another film that I reviewed in this YouTube page, Succubus, from Franco, we have jazz being utilized in very unorthodox ways. A film like this, scenes like this, would not be utilizing jazz. They would be utilizing something much more common and mainstream and popular. Maybe some orchestrated dark tones and music and very horror music. But Jess Franco is littering this film with jazz. Jazz and dark, disturbing scenes. In gothic, atmospheric, weird scenes, there's jazz. What an interesting, magical paradox of weirdness that Jess Franco is giving us here. We also have, though, at the same time, some dark terror vibes in the sound design and in the music. Some sounds in this film that really disturb me, that really bring a powerful darkness to me. The screaming in this film. The screaming in this film is unlike screaming that you would hear in a typical horror film. The sound of the train is almost distorted and sounds like a scream. Thunder. And then just silence and natural sounds. There is realism in the sounds. There's realism in the viciousness and in the struggles, as well as realism in the imagery in this film, which leads to, that realism leads to the brutality and the viciousness and the darkness and the atmosphere of this film. This is a film of great style, unbelievable style. The lighting and the shadows. There's a lighting sequence in a train at night, or a train that passes through a tunnel with Howard Vernon. It's unbelievable. I got chills. And sometimes the light corresponds to the sound. Sometimes as soon as lighting changes, the music changes, the sound changes. And you get chills. He utilizes the zoom in here. There are times in here that you see an elegance and a kind of this fluid movement of the camera where, excuse me, one of my friends who was watching the film with me said, "Oh, this doesn't remind me of Franco." And then all of a sudden something would remind them of Franco. And there are some zooms in here that are done to very, very horrific effect and powerfully horrific effect in darkness in a different way that than when he would utilize zooms in other films of his that he's known for. I think of the hallways in this film. I think of the hallway shots, dark and cavernous and impending and doom-laden. There's a wildly realistic, brutal fight scene in this film. There's wildly realistic murder sequences in this film. And when I say that, I mean sometimes when you're watching a 1965 black and white film and somebody goes in to kill somebody, they go in, they put their hands around their neck, and then they just fall down and they're dead, and that's the end of the scene. Not so here. We have almost 70s grittiness to the violence. No, not gore, to the violence in this film. The struggle in the fighting, the struggle in the murder sequences, the screaming and the crashing of things around the room, the human brutal physicality that makes you feel disturbed. The atmosphere in here is, this is atmosphere. This film is atmosphere. I mentioned the lighting. But what about the actual atmospheres? What about the unbelievable home? The unbelievable basement of this home? The weird laboratory? What about the club where Miss Death does her act? Notice the webs on the floor of the club. Not just as part of Miss Death's act, Miss Muerte's act. This is a film of unexpected turns in the storyline. You might think you know where this is going. I love when people call Jess Franco a hack, because they obviously have not seen his films. Really seen his films, and they definitely obviously have not seen Diabolical Dr. Z. The twists and turns in the storyline, the pacing of this film is unending. It's unbelievable. There is something happening every minute of this film, to emotional effect, to atmospheric effect, and it's unexpected as the film develops. As my friend said, who was watching the film, in one unexpected turn in the film, he said, "Wow, this is really horrific. This is really terrifying." There's a constant wildness to this film in the pacing. Diabolical Dr. Z is horror plus bizarre plus sexual plus dark psychotic. It's that world right there. Diabolical Dr. Z is brutal and vicious and violent, but without the gore. It is sexual and sleazy and edgy, but without nudity. There is another nightclub act. There's another stage show, like Jess Franco is so known for. And I think I might have mentioned this in other reviews. So many of his films have stage shows. And I believe that maybe his films are the show. The film within the film. There's a stage show in his film. Maybe the film, maybe this film, maybe any of his films, he views as a stage, as a show. And now the viewer at home is the audience in the show, clapping, maybe horrified, maybe turned on sexually, disturbed. interested, confused, all of the above. This film is scary and disturbing and weird and real. It's very edgy and powerfully dark. This is a very edgy and powerfully dark horror movie in black and white, 1965. The Miss Death stage show, you can see, as we're watching this black and white film, you can see Franco's hand all over it, in the weirdness, in the mannequin, in the sexuality of of the outfit, the spider web, and the web in her hair and her nails, and there's almost a fetish of nails in the film, and in connection with Howard Vernon in a way, and the outfits tight around the butts, the sleaziness, and kind of the views of the butts in this film, awesome butts and bodies, and the clinging of the clothing to the bodies. You can see Jess Franco's edginess even in this 65 film, in this edgy film. I found some interesting kind of an epiphany of connections between this film and another film that I reviewed in this YouTube page, She Killed in Ecstasy. I see some things there. I see some connections there. Very, very interesting. There's a level of surreal in this horror movie. There's a level of weird and bizarre and sexuality, which makes it not as simple as a horror movie at all. Franco plays a role in this film, a young Franco. And I don't want to give anything away, but he plays a substantial role in this film. And he also brings some comedy in the film, like he's known to do when he plays in a film. And I some side humor in a very, very dark, atmospheric film, disturbing film. I really believe that Franco never got his due. I mean, he never got his due as a director. Obviously, very hated, very unpopular. Everybody will talk about, you do a film night at a theater. You'll see Argento, you'll see Fulci, you'll see a bunch of things like that. Everybody will jump in on that. Romero, and you can even do, some European, directors, of sleaze directors even. But Franco, he's not popular, he's not respected, and his acting is not respected enough either. I really feel that he was an unbelievable actor in his films as well, which is very rare for the director of a film to act well in a film. And all the different roles and the weirdness of his roles. This is 1965's Diabolical Dr. Z. This is one of my favorite horror films. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films like this, films that I believe need to be talked about more. Jess Franco, sexploitation, adult, erotica, horror, bizarre, underground, weird. It's all here. Check out the YouTube page. Thank you so much for the community, and have a great night.